Welcome to the Fallon Forum. Hey, I want to take a second to thank our sponsors, Hawk Restaurant at East 5th and Walnut in the East Village neighborhood. That's at the corner of East 5th and Walnut. Check them out, folks. 95% of the food they serve, even this time of the year, comes from local farms, local sources. Also, I want to thank Corazon Coffee Roasters, focusing on fair trade coffee and fair trade tea, located in West Des Moines. But heck, they'll deliver that stuff to you anywhere. And, of course, our anchor sponsor, Gateway Market and Cafe at 20th and Woodland in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. Great place for shopping, of course. And, you know, I love to shop. And also a great place for meals. Anyway, we're going to talk about politics later in the show. But speaking of shopping, I'm going to welcome Jeff Weiss to the show. Jeffrey Weiss, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ed. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right.
Good, yeah.
I hear you're a big shopper.
Yeah.
You're all pumped about Black Friday coming down here, and you just can't wait to get out there and tear up those malls. Do I have that right?
You know, I found out that it's really interesting that there's been international groups through Adbusters, which I know Adbusters is one of the publications that actually started a lot of the information for Occupy Wall Street, and there are groups like Occupy Christmas. There are more groups this season than I've noticed, and I'm not an expert on this topic, that are really just encouraging people in the United States to do buy nothing holidays. If you have to buy local. To protest many things. For one, you know, mindless consumerism is not good for the heart or the soul or the brain, but it's also devastating for, the fate of the human race, vis-a-vis our ecological fate and climate change.
So what's the difference between mindless consumerism and just plain old consumerism?
Well, there's really not a lot of difference. We understand that people are going to want to buy products this Christmas and the holidays, of course, and so, you know, you can shop local. People can visit the businesses that advertise for the Fallon Forum, for example. They can buy fair trade materials, etc. But, you know, it's interesting if you think about the history of buying nothing. You know, even the system of apartheid in South Africa, they were consistent boycotts during holiday season where people would just refuse to shop that helped shut down that economy and eventually ended the apartheid system. And I think beyond buy nothing holidays, a number of groups are starting to say that people should not buy from large corporations. You know,
but the argument is going to be, well, if people don't go out there and do their patriotic duty and shop and buy a lot of stuff, I mean, the economy will collapse. A lot of businesses, even small businesses, rely on this upcoming month, December, to make or break it.
Yeah,
how do you?
Well, there's not going to be enough people yet to make or break our economy. I mean, the United States has, a $17 trillion GDP, and 70% of that is consumer spending. I understand that. Good grief, almost 18% of that is just healthcare alone. But so I do want to throw that in.
Yeah.
We're one of the few countries where the government doesn't set the prices. So you're paying.
Yeah, 18% of 18% of what we spend goes on healthcare.
Yeah, so like unlike most industrialized countries, the government doesn't set the price.
I am totally not doing my part on that. I'm failing miserably in terms of my contribution to the healthcare portion of our economic vitality. I'm not getting sick enough.
Well, Ed, I'm doing my part.
You are? Good.
I had to pay for a $3,300 brain scan.
Excellent.
So
are you serious?
I'm helping. Yeah, I'm very serious.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, but in terms of your role as a consumer, excellent. Thank you.
I'm helping advance economic growth.
Yeah, helping to advance economic growth through physical agony. Yes. Well, and again, I'm not doing my part. I'm not getting sick enough. I mean, I've got the lowest premium I've ever thought was possible on my Obamacare plan, and I'm not even using that.
Well,
I mean, I need to get hit by a bus. I need to go out there and get hit by a bus or an asteroid, or I don't know, something like that.
You can walk across the United States of America and not get hit by a bus or an asteroid. Detroit. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, and it's funny you say that because when you're walking along the highway, I mean, I see those cars coming at me 3, 4, 5 feet away. I'm thinking, I am on the verge of death or disaster every minute of every day, and somehow, I don't know, maybe I just need to be trying harder, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
Anyway, so beyond the moral imperative of incurring healthcare expenses in order to boost the economy,
right?
If one should choose to find other ways to boost the economy, you can do that through reckless consumer spending, just buying things you don't need for yourself or for other people.
Absolutely.
But now, isn't there? And you're advocating for buying nothing at all.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there are organizations that are part of these kind of initiatives that say, if you're going to buy local, and buy fair trade or buy, there's so many productive things that people can do around the holidays. I mean, there's so many international and local organizations that are in need, and more groups are doing these things, which I think is good. I mean, it's much more, you would think, the spirit of Christmas. I mean, this Palestinian Jew who was born in first century, was born in Nazareth, who, didn't exactly come into the world with a silver spoon in his mouth.
But they brought him plenty of silver. I mean, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So, I mean, some would argue that that's the precedent right there, that Jesus himself was setting the standard for rampant, out-of-control consumers.
Well,
I mean, a baby doesn't really need those things, but if somebody's bringing them to him, then maybe the example is being set right there. I don't know.
Well, but then you forget, he overturned the tables and stuff and the temple in Jerusalem, and Roman authorities caught wind of him, and he was turned over.
Right, but he wasn't against rampant materialism. He just didn't like it where it was being sold. Take that out back somewhere, would you? Come on.
Well, you know what? I think we will. We could consult Mark and Matthew, Luke, and John and look into that one closer. That's a good question.
All right. Well,
what would Jesus do this holiday, right?
Yeah, what would Jesus buy?
What would he?
Nothing, according to Jeffrey Weiss.
Right.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I did one year. Me and my family, and my kids were teenagers, so I knew it would be challenging. Mm-hmm. We decided to only shop at locally owned businesses from Thanksgiving through Christmas.
Wow.
My daughter had a little bit of a withdrawal problem when we weren't able to go to the malls. Mm-hmm. But overall, we still did our part as patriotic Christmas time consumers, but we were able to do everything we wanted to do and needed to do at locally owned businesses. And again, It was scaled back. It wasn't the insanity you see in front of Walmart or big box stores or malls where people are just crushing each other to get in, which I think, that is obscene. That is absolutely obscene.
Well, and I understand there are some groups in Des Moines through a Facebook page that at noon or 12:30 on Friday are going to have a demonstration in front of Walmart. This is happening all throughout the country on Friday. And it is on the heels of the sit-down strike in California where more than 20 people were arrested at a Walmart. Corporate media carefully censored that story. I knew they would.
Corporate media never does that, Jeffrey. How dare you accuse them of censoring stories?
Well, it was really
Come on.
I will tell
That's
you
uncalled
it was really
for.
interesting when it was going on because Al Jazeera America covered it some, and also, of course, Democracy Now! And other things. And then you'd go online and you'd see Reuters and other things, but it just conveniently didn't happen for most of corporate media. But whatever the case, it actually did happen, and it's going to be interesting how corporate media is going to censor the demonstrations at Walmarts all across the country. Because if you go online and you look at this Facebook page for Black Friday in Walmart, you will see that this is happening in dozens and dozens of cities across the United States. And, this economist just calculated that Walmart made $16 billion in profit last year, and if they paid their workers instead of $7 an hour, $15 an hour, they would have made $6 billion in profit. So, I mean, I think
that also is unconscionable. Well, that Walmart should make so little in profit.
Well, I got it. You know what, Ed? You're right. After I read that study, I couldn't sleep because I thought to myself, the Walton family that is worth billions of dollars, how could they possibly live on, let's say, $450 million?
I don't know. That's got to be rough.
That would be hard.
Yeah.
And that, you know what? That did make me lose sleep a little bit because I thought, gosh, how could you possibly live on $500 million?
Well,
that'd be tough.
Better than a sleeping pill, Jeffrey. I have a solution to your insomnia because of your concern about the billionaires at Walmart. Instead of this buy nothing day crap, okay? How about buy only at Walmart? Okay, so from Thanksgiving to Christmas, only buy at Walmart. Everything you need, whether it's gas, guns, groceries, get them at Walmart.
Right.
All right?
Ammunition and everything.
Ammunition, get it all there. All right.
Exercise your Second Amendment rights. Well, the other thing that's interesting about it, what you just said, is one of the funny things that the people do, sometimes more in European countries or Canada, is they call it Worldmart, where people and their friends silently drive shopping carts in sort of inexplicable conga lines in different stores without ever actually buying something. And they have funny shirts, and then the zombie walk, where people dress up like zombies and cheerfully dead wander around the malls. These are really funny things.
Yeah. Well, this truly should be a season of joy and celebration. And one way to do that is to dress like a zombie and push an empty cart around Walmart. I think we're on to some possibilities here beyond just the intrigue of buy nothing.
Yeah. Like I said, the Windsor Heights Walmart, it's either noon or 12:30. This Friday will be part of the nationwide action. So, I'm sure there'll just be people I think will really cause an interest.
I might do that, Jeffrey, and I might, but here's what I want to do. I want to go out there, and I'm hoping. I'm a little bit apprehensive, but I'm hoping to be run over by a rapidly moving runaway grocery cart.
Well, that's
and
a good
that will
point.
cause the physical injuries needed to admit me to a hospital where I can do my part to make sure I'm contributing to the healthcare portion of our GMP.
That's a good point, because
All right.
especially if you have to go to the emergency room, you may have to pay for like a $400 dose of Tylenol.
One can only hope.
That's a good point.
One can only hope.
Then you'll be contributing to the GDP in some
All
way,
right.
Ed.
I just wonder. Here's my question. We asked, what would Jesus do in terms of the shopping season leading up to his birthday? My question is, what would Jesus do if he was hosting this show? Anyway,
Right.
I suspect he'd probably move on to something else at this point. But Jeffrey, I think this is. I do think it's very important. If you've got to shop for Christmas, if it's got to be part of your life, do it locally, and either way, do it minimally. We've got to get away from this. Really, materialism has become the national religion.
Right.
And we've got to change that.
Absolutely. So, all right, Ed, I'm glad you survived this walk across the country. So,
I did, Jeffrey, and maybe that's the cure for everybody. I had no back trouble. That's been my That's my Achilles heel is my back. I had no back trouble while walking 15 to 20 miles a day.
That's incredible.
That's my panacea. Folks, you're sick, you got anything wrong with you at all? Go out and walk 15 to 20 miles day after day, and you'll feel great.
Wow. No, I like that.
Except for the blisters.
Yeah.
and don't get hit by trucks.
Well, yeah, and you did, because you're talking to me right now.
I'm talking to you right now. Jeffrey Weiss, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, thanks, Ed.
All right.
You back. All right, bye-bye.
Folks, if you'd like to join the conversation, the number here is 515-244-0077. 515-244-0077. If you have that old number of 855, ignore that. That's bad information, no longer relevant. 515-244-0077. If you're listening on KHOI or KPVL, this is a rebroadcast, and you can always listen to the show live Monday through Thursday, or this week, Monday through Wednesday, at www.fallonforum.com. But I will say this, tomorrow I will be announcing some very significant news that affects everything that I just told you. But for now, everything I just told you remains solidly true. All right, let's go to line 2 and welcome Bob from Davenport to the program. Bob, hello, how are you?
I'm crazy. How are you?
You're crazy? Well, you came to the right place.
Apparently.
Yeah. Hey, I was, if you've got something else on your mind, launch into it. But I was going to respond to some of the conversation we've been having online all day about the Democratic Party's preference for coronations over nominations. And if that's not your subject, if you got something else on your mind, I'd be happy to hear it. But if that's it, let's go to it.
That's why
Okay.
I called.
Good.
And it's actually pretty aggravating because they at times can be so devious.
Now, Bob, quick question, Bob. Are you on a speakerphone?
No, I'm on my Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. It's a little hollow. You sound like you're broadcasting from a spaceship somewhere between Earth and Mars.
Okay. Well, a little paper move will take care of the Bluetooth.
Okay, great.
But let me get you off that and.
And while you're doing that, let me give a little background here. The concern I have is that the Democratic Party wants to, well, let me say, the elite establishment that essentially controls the Democratic Party, and this is a very well-financed establishment, that they really don't like nominations. They don't like primaries. Those get messy. And they have found, we have seen this happening many times. It happened once in your town, Bob, with Alicia Gaiman retiring, not announcing till the last minute that she was retiring. And I don't think that was her call. I think it was somebody in the party, probably one of the powerful people in the Iowa House, told her, don't announce till the last minute. We'll handpick your successor. The same thing happened here in Des Moines with Wayne Ford. Handpick the successor. And that, of course, it leads to not a nomination because nobody has time to get into the race. It leads to a coronation, a handpicked, anointed successor. Now, this happens too in races like the U.S. Senate race here and the race in the 3rd Congressional District, where you get a candidate that is said to be the only possible one that can win this race, the one that nobody could beat in the primary and that the Republicans couldn't possibly beat. And you have Bruce Braley and you have Stacey Apple, both of whom I like well enough, but why was there not an opportunity to have a real spirited primary? Why would the establishment not back out? Why would the officials in the party not stay out of the way while we see who else might have come forward? That's my concern.
It's worse than that, Ed. It's actually worse than that. What I've seen in Iowa in more than one race is a situation where they would actually go and finance their person and make it difficult for the other people running in the primary. I mean, I've actually seen them go and give money to a separate candidate. I saw another race where they put up a candidate. There was already somebody who was announced, a good guy, solid progressive, lots of support with the unions and the party and so on and so forth. And they went behind this guy's back, and they found a candidate to run against him in the primary whose only claim to fame was that he had brought Grassley to town at one point.
So can you name names?
I'd rather not because I want to make change.
Okay,
here.
sure. Now, when you say they gave this candidate money, who is they?
The IDP, the Democratic Party.
So the party itself.
Yep.
Okay, and was this a state race or a federal race?
It was a state race. It was,
okay.
And it was in the primary.
Okay.
And they tell people, they say, if you don't hire the people that we give you, we won't fund your campaign.
Yeah.
We won't give you any help.
Yeah, I've talked to other candidates who can vouch for that. That is true. Or if you fall off, if you kind of step off the reservation, so to speak, and don't toe the line, if you don't say what they want you to say or do what they want you to do, boom, even funding that might have been promised can disappear. And the biggest part of the problem is money has become way too important in politics. But that there are individuals within the party, sometimes very wealthy, or if not wealthy, at least connected to wealth, who make those decisions, using the example you gave or some of the other examples that I can think of. Yeah, that's not right. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not democracy. Now, it's not just a Democratic problem either.
Yeah, here's the thing, Ed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, here's the thing. It doesn't work. We saw in the last election what happens. We have to go grassroots and the heck with them. We got to get out in the precincts, out in the counties, and have meetings, explain to people what democracy is, and give people the language on the issues and talk about the issues. Pull Elizabeth Warren on them and educate them. I'd love to see a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren ticket.
Yeah, that's a good segue. Now, there's quite a lot of talk about there being an inevitability around Hillary Clinton's candidacy for president, that she is the one that the Democrats are going to all rally behind. All the signs are starting to be, you're starting to see lots of signs ready for Hillary, and again, the talk is such that, if she were to get in, and we know she is, she will be unbeatable in the primary. All the establishment money will be behind her, all the name recognition, and it's her time, and we need a woman, and all those arguments that are used to discourage anybody from wanting to jump in.
And it's going to be more of the same. It's top down. That's the problem with Hillary. I'd love to see a woman president. Yes, it's about time, but get somebody who's not in the pockets of Wall Street, for heaven's sake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you mentioned a candidate that you feel would not be in the pockets of Wall Street. Yeah. Bernie Sanders, I think you mentioned. Right. And I think you mentioned Elizabeth Warren. I would say both of those as leaders, they have been somewhat problematic for Wall Street, shall we say?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, Bernie can't win. Well, they said that about Barack, and they beat up on Barack. But he was up against behind the eight ball from day one. He and Michelle were dancing at the inaugural ball. And you had what's his name, Luntz and McConnell and Boehner. Some people don't use the A there, and Cantor. Okay,
right.
And they were plotting to see that he didn't even finish one term.
Yeah. I mean, and there are plenty of examples across the board of candidates who are deemed to be inevitable and don't win. Again, or candidates who come from nowhere who do win. Tom Vilsack comes to mind. Nobody thought Tom Vilsack could beat the inevitable Jim Ross Lightfoot. Maybe the guy was the congressman from your area, I believe.
Okay,
or maybe not quite, but that general area, and was deemed to be inevitable. He was even using. You remember the bumper sticker? Iowa needs Governor Lightfoot. He was already using the word governor in his name on bumper stickers. I mean that made Chris Christie look modest. Anyway,
I'll be honest, Ed. I'm a transplant. I worked in the political arena around Chicagoland, and before that, in the Boston area.
Okay.
So I've been around the block a few times, and especially in Massachusetts, they have primaries. They're hotly contested primaries. There's so many Democrats that are tripping over each other. It's amazing that they get a Republican governor.
Yeah.
I'm amazed.
Yeah. Well, that was close. That was a very close election out there. But now the Republicans, I understand why Barack Obama was the only candidate on the Democratic ticket 2 years ago. I get that. That's I'm not arguing about that. I even though I think there was some crazy talk on the Republican side, I like the fact that there was a bunch of people in the primary, 7, 8 maybe at one time. But this time it's very likely going to be like it was in 2000, where Democrats said that Al Gore was the inevitable nominee. Nobody dare challenge him. Of course, Bill Bradley decided to challenge him, but could not get off square one. I mean, he was not taken seriously, even though he was a U.S. senator. He was not given the time of day. He was not able to raise money. He finished a very, very distant second out of 2. And my sense is that's what Democrats are trying to do again today, getting Hillary Clinton, again, the nod of inevitability, all the resources she needs, with anybody else who might dare to challenge her being relegated to a distant second or third place spot. And look, how well did that work for Al Gore? How well did the coronation work on the Republican side for Jim Ross Lightfoot in 1998 or for Jim Nussle in 2006?
Back up.
Okay, I'll back up.
Okay. Al Gore actually won the election.
I know that. But he probably should have won it by a bigger margin, don't you think?
Well, yeah. But I mean, it really frosts me when I hear people say that when Bush won in 2000 and 2004, it's like, no, he didn't win. Get a grip, people.
Right. But my point is, it might have been a different outcome, better from Gore's point of view, a different outcome in the general election, had there been a more spirited primary where you get 5, 6, 7 candidates in the race. That makes for a good debate. That makes for a much more democratic process. And we need to see that. We need to see that on both sides of the aisle. But right now,
as long as they keep it clean.
All right.
If they start, digging dirt up and beating each other up, and they just give the other side more fodder to beat them up in the general.
Well, that's the theory, but that's not how it's been playing out. Again, a lot of the elections, the candidate. Look, David Young. How many candidates were in that primary? 5, 6, 7. That one went to convention. There were so many candidates in that primary that nobody won it outright. It had to go to convention here in here in central and western Iowa. What you know, in Joni Ernst's race, that was a very, very contested primary. So the theory that you can't have a lot of people in the primary or the winner will get beaten up, be so battered they won't win, that's not working. That's not how it's happening. The opposite is happening. The guy or gal who gets through the primary with no competition is the one who's losing. So I mean, maybe the democratic process where you have that feisty, spirited debate between a bunch of candidates is not a bad idea after all.
No, I think it is, as long as it's about the issues and the content of the issues than the character and the kind of nastiness that we saw go on between phony Joni and Bruce Braley.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of worthless airtime. What did I see? $41 million spent on TV, just TV alone, by those two candidates. Isn't that crazy?
Well,
That's
it was
crazy.
so deceptive. It's so deceptive. I mean, she made like she was in danger when she was in the military there of becoming an Tammy Duckworth. She was in Kuwait, from what I understand, doing logistics. I mean, yeah, you're going to have your legs blown off doing logistics in Kuwait. That's a dangerous place, isn't it?
Well, it can be.
Yeah, and then there's a story about how much farming experience she actually had.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly how it went, but the question is if she actually grew up on a farm. My understanding is that that's not the case. But you know what?
I don't know and I don't care. I mean, what happened in Kuwait doesn't matter. What happened in the hog barn with the castration knife doesn't matter to me. You know, then that's unfortunate. We have a lot of time spent discussing peripheral issues, mudslinging, smear campaigns, and very little time and money spent really discussing the issues. What?
She was deceptive on that. She stood up and she had an ad. She said, I support Medicare. I support Social Security. Yeah, by privatizing them.
That's right.
But she's leading people to believe that she's not for privatization.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to have to see what happens here. I think, one thing, Bob, I've got to wrap up the show. But one thing I've been impressed with in the conversation on Facebook and through email today, even people who are strong supporters of Hillary Clinton concur that there ought to be a multiple candidate spirited primary. That's good news. Let's hope that happens. Bob, thanks so much for joining us all the way from Davenport, Iowa.
Yep. Okay, buddy.
All right. Take care. Folks, thank you for tuning into the Fallon Forum. If you're listening on KHOI or KPVL, stay tuned for part 2 coming up shortly. If you're listening live, I'll be back on tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, same time. Thanks to Maddie Kane, my producer, and to Webcast One Live.